gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another stellar episode of Danny Does. Today we're going to be discussing Halloween Horror Nights, now in its 28th year. It's going to be an historic year as there are more houses than they've ever had before, and I cannot wait, so let's go. As of a couple days ago now, Universal Studios announced the final house that will be appearing this year, Scary Tales, Deadly Ever After. That is going to be one of 5 original houses that Universal has slated for their lineup this year. That goes along with Slaughter Cinema, Dead Exposure, Patient Zero, Carnival Graveyard, and Seeds of Extinction. Now, there's also 5 IPs, which if you don't understand what IP is, I'll tell you. It's intellectual property. Poltergeist, Halloween 4, Trick or Treat, Stranger Things, and Blumhouse, returning again for now its 2nd year. Now Blumhouse is going to be split between 2 different movies. One is Happy Death Day, as well as the first Purge. In addition to the 10 houses, there are also 5 scare zones that willing participants will be able to walk through. Vamp 85, New Year's Eve, The Harvest, Twisted Tradition, Revenge of Chucky scare zone, and the Killer Clowns from Outer Space scare zone. So if you haven't already made the connection, they're really going for that 80s vibe. In addition to the houses and the scare zones, don't forget that you have AOV, Academy of Villains. This year's show is entitled Cyberpunk. If you were here for last year's event, they did Afterlife, which I really loved. You can check out a video of that show right up here. Really excited to see what they have in store for Cyberpunk this year. As if that wasn't enough, keep in mind that the rides stay open during the event. That includes The Mummy, Rip Ride Rocket, the new Fast and Furious Supercharged, Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts, Men in Black, Alien Attack. May have left a couple out as well, but you've got rides, you've got houses, you've got scare zones, there's shows, there's food, there's a lot to take in. So stick around because I've got a couple more recommendations that I think will help enable you to make your experience the best ever. Stick around. We've still got a lot of ground to cover. If you want to see a full review of last year's event, go ahead and click this link right up here right now, but also come back to this video if you want more information about this year's event. Also, now might not be the worst time to go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down here. If you want to continue to get updates on this year's event, go ahead and hit that link right now. So last year on the Avenue of the Stars, they had the scare zone called Altars of Horror, which was essentially 1 or 2 characters from each of the different scare zones or houses walking around, creeping up on you, scaring you. And essentially I think that's what this year's Harvest scare zone is going to be as well. According to the description, an old barn sits in the middle of the Avenue of the Stars, features characters from each of the houses and scare zones ready to harvest on your blood. Also in this spot will be the queue line for the Stranger Things house. Probably the house I'm most looking forward to this season, and from everything I've read, it will include all the iconic scenes from season 1 of Stranger Things, including the Byers house, the Upside Down, the Hawkins Laboratory, and all your favorite characters as well. Stranger Things is such a cool show. If you haven't had a chance, now is the time to start binging on Netflix. Get yourself ready for that house. Right next door to the Stranger Things house, behind me over here between Jimmy Fallon and this stage here is going to be Carnival Graveyard, one of Universal Studios Orlando's 5 original houses for this year's event. And this one's gonna be fun, folks. This description reads, "The carnival graveyards of yesteryear never died, but something sinister has festered and is waiting to torment the souls of those who trespass on their salvage yard." Moving right along here as we are passing Jimmy Fallon, we're gonna have 2 houses back in this area here, Scary Tales and Poltergeist. Scary Tales was literally just announced, I want to say like a day or 2 ago. It's going to be a twist on the classic fairy tales that we all know and love. It seems like a very interesting idea. In addition to that, back here is going to be the Poltergeist house, based on the classic poltergeist movie. On your way into these houses, or maybe on your way out, you'll experience Vamp 85 New Year's Eve, and it's going to be in this area right here. And the description on the event guide map for this scare zone is: as the ball drops in 1985, this New Year's bash is about to bite, literally. This one I feel is pretty straightforward. It's basically just going to be vampires in 1985, right? What's not to get about that? Vampires in 1985. Moving right along, right in front of me, we're gonna walk straight into the next scare zone of this year's event, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And as you can see, they already have some of the lighting set up in this area for that scare zone, which is kind of cool. We're getting there, folks, we're getting there. Now, obviously, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, the original movie, was not set on South Street in Universal Studios. However, the description for this scare zone reads that a interstellar circus tent has just landed on South Street, and in this nightmare, the joke's always on you. It's going to be full of circus clowns. I'm going to be curious to see how they do these scare actors' costumes, because a lot of it in the movie is done with claymation and animatronics. So hopefully they bring some of those elements here to recreate some of the expressions on these really grotesque looking clowns' faces. I'm really excited for this one. I did go back and watch the original movie, and it's just as cheesy but awesome as it ever was. I just think it's cool that they're doing a scare zone based on an IP. I don't know if they've ever done that before. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section below. Moving on, next house on our list is going to be the Horrors of Blumhouse house. Last year, I believe the queue entrance was right in here, and this year's Blumhouse includes the first Purge and Happy Death Day. So I think just from a visual standpoint, this is going to be a cool house to walk through. Last year, I think Blumhouse might have been my favorite house. Moving right along, right behind me are going to be the next two houses for this year's event. It's going to be Slaughter Cinema over here and Dead Exposure Patient Zero over my right shoulder. The Slaughter Cinema, cinema spelled with an S. The description reads, it's showtime at the local drive-in where you don't just catch a movie, the movie catches you. And when the credits roll, heads will roll. There is another house here as well, that one being Dead Exposure Patient Zero. That one's going to be right up in that direction there. And the description for this one reads, fear will infect you, plunging you into darkness against fast-moving, swarming zombies. The tweet thread that was featured on Halloween Horror Nights' official Twitter account a couple weeks ago gives a little bit of a backstory about a woman who was on a trip in Paris, and all of a sudden everything went wrong and an infection broke out, and then zombies were everywhere, and it was kind of like mass chaos. It was really cool to read, almost like 28 days later type of situation. So I'm looking forward to this house. I'll post that link in the description below. As we move into Springfield, in the past 2 years that I've been here, this area has been not an official scare zone, but has included a roaming horde, which is where scare actors with chainsaws will run around and torment those who get in their way. My best advice for you is to just not make eye contact. But also that could come back and bite you as well if you're unassuming. As we exit the Springfield section of the park and move towards where the trick-or-treat scare zone was last season, we head into the Woody Woodpecker's Kids Zone section where the trick-or-treat house will be this season. Last year it appeared here as a scare zone, and I thought it was the coolest scare zone of the year. And apparently a lot of other people did too, hence them bringing it back in a house form. In addition to the trick-or-treat house, the Woody Woodpecker's Kids Zone area is also going to feature an original house called Seeds of Extinction, described as a post-apocalyptic, overgrown wasteland in which humanity is extinct, wiped out by a cataclysmic meteor, and in its place, hungry and carnivorous meat-eating predatory vegetation has taken root. Plants? As we move into the next scare zone area, Twisted Tradition, you'll notice the pumpkins in the trees here. They're strung up in the same fashion last year. And I think it's cool that they've set this up already. This is one of the only scare zones fully set up. And the description for this one, you see that they have a sign out advertising HHN already. An ancient tradition has been reawakened and is transforming this year's Halloween into an abomination. The last scare zone is going to be in this area here, and it is the Revenge of Chucky scare zone. The official description says that Chucky, the world's deadliest doll, has brought a gruesome toy fair to life to run amok on the streets of Hollywood, and that you'll be dying to play with some of these toys. Finally, the last house for this year's event would be letter number J, if you're playing along at home, and that is Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers. The fifth and final IP for this year's event. The house is going to tie in to the new movie coming out for Halloween. And that's going to be right over here in the Shrek area. So that's it. That's everything to expect from this year's event in terms of houses and scare zones and shows. Now, there are some things that you should know before you go. And speaking of going, you might see from behind me, I just exited the park. I'm going to work. I think the most pertinent piece of information would be for you to pick up an express pass. It is possible to be waiting upwards of an hour for some of these houses. Tip number 2, stay and scream zones. What you're looking at right now is a calendar of all of the nights planned for this year's event. Days of the event tend to be less crowded than other days, so if you want to experience everything that HHN has to offer, plan a day around your HHN experience. You'll be at Universal Studios, you'll be experiencing the park. Around 6 o'clock or so, they do a hard close. They usher everybody out, except for those who have the HHN pass. People start to line up outside, and what they'll do with you is they'll put you in what's called a stay and scream zone. You won't be able to ride any rides or roam throughout the park, but you'll be entitled to early admission to the houses. So here I'm going to give you action plans. Action plan number 1. Plan your day around HHN. Go to the parks, stay in a stay and scream zone, and then make Stranger Things your first destination. Action plan number 2. Plan to arrive at around 6 p.m. Once they let you in, head all the way back to Blumhouse if you can't be one of the first couple people to go to Stranger Things. And while you're back there, you could also do Slaughter Cinema and Dead Exposure because they're all right there. You'll also get a chance to walk through a couple of the scare zones on your way there. Tip 4. Binge watch as much content that will be featured at HHN as you can. This is going to add so much value to your experience when you recognize characters and you recognize scenes. Tip number 4, take the time to plan your adventure. Don't stress it, but put in a little bit of work. I mean, you're already watching this video, so 10 points to Gryffindor for that.
10 billion points for Gryffindor!
Figure out what's going to work best for you and your group. It could be going around in a circle. It could be seeing AOV first. It could be going on all the rides first because you've never been to Universal before and you have an opportunity to do so with a minimal wait. Just have fun with it. Go with people that you can trust and have fun with as well. I know I've talked your ear off, but I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch. Go ahead and like this video if you liked what you saw. Subscribe to my channel to receive similar content and be notified every time I post a video. Like my page on Facebook for some exclusive content. And as always, have a magical day. Thanks for watching. See you.